Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for logging in and coming for this month's session of Dude Talks. Today we have Annie Martin with us. As a graduate from Le Moyne College, Annie started her career in inside sales and customer service, eventually moving into a directorship within Channel Advisors Client Success Group. Annie is now the Technical Services Director at Validic, where she specializes in building and maintaining effective teams to support the growth of the business. Today, she's here with us to talk about transforming teams, how to build, grow, and develop teams. So everyone give Annie a warm welcome.
So yeah, a little more than just hang out, but kind of that's it. So thank you very much. As Hannah just mentioned, my name is Annie Martin. I'm the Director of Technical Services at Validic. Today I'm going to share with you my experiences growing into my leadership roles and what I learned building a successful implementation team. And when Hannah asked me to speak to you today, my first question was whether or not I had to have this whole thing memorized. And she said, no, I don't have to. So that means I am going to read this as we go along today. Am I, is this thing on? All right. I got to turn on my thingy here. Bear with me. All right. Okay. So my journey started off by really having no goals to get into management. My first opportunity came when I was an implementation specialist at Channel Advisor. We had an opening for a newly created customer success manager role. And as soon as it was communicated, I thought of all the reasons I absolutely should not apply. It wasn't until my manager mentioned to me that she was surprised I hadn't applied, that it occurred to me that maybe my own ideas of myself weren't quite in line with how others saw me. And so this is going to age me. Does anyone know what this is in the room? It's a little blurry, darn Charlie. All right, so after this, you have to go Google Charlie the Unicorn. God, this is what, like 10, 20 years old now. It's a little cartoon. It's hilarious. But says, I believe in you, Charlie. Shun the non-believer, shun. Which would be a lot better if you had actually seen this. But the point is still there. The point is still there. Managers, encourage those that you believe in, and to all, believe in yourself. And because my manager had just simply said, I really thought you would have applied, that was really enough to get me thinking. And so I applied that night. I interviewed and I did not get the job until a week later when a member of the management team left for another position. I then went from only ever worrying about, myself, my job, and now being responsible for 10 people's overall success. And I had no idea what I was doing. And so I pulled from lessons learned from my previous managers, and most of which gave me what not to do. And so that moves us to lesson 2. You are a mentor, whether you realize it or not. So take that seriously and coach your potential managers so that they are not stuck in the same position I was. Does anyone in this room know this one? I learned it from you, all right? I learned it from watching you. God, I'm aging myself so bad. I barely had time to get used to being a team manager when another sudden vacancy created a new opportunity. This time it was as the manager of our entire US team. So, to set this up, I was already a new manager. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing. But this opportunity presented itself, and essentially what the question was, here's this giant pile of poop. Would you like to scoop it? Because what I will go into a little bit later is a lot of times opportunity, it's not something you're actually building towards. It's kind of the problem that turns up that nobody wants to solve. And so you really just have to be willing to jump on that. And so, during this time, it was really hard. It was not my best time at all. I made a lot of the common rookie manager mistakes. And in general, I felt like I sucked more each day. I didn't know how to delegate. I had a hard time being direct with my reports who a day earlier had been my peers. There was an entirely new vocabulary to learn, and the stakes seemed much higher than when I only had to worry about myself. I looked to other managers to figure out what I should do or how I should act. And this led to my worst overall mistake. I was trying to be what I thought a manager should be. And so I got caught up in superficial things like how I was supposed to dress or carry myself and act around my peers and subordinates. And everything felt wrong, and I didn't like who I was becoming. I was in this management role for less than a year when I moved up to a global director position. So what that means is shit just got real. I was totally overwhelmed. I was still learning how to manage, and I was still feeling like a huge fake and a failure. I wanted so badly to do a good job, but I knew I had no idea what I was doing. And so this brought me to lesson 4. I realized that if I wanted to be better, I had to invest in myself. So I hired a leadership coach to help me figure all of that out. And, I'll go into it more, but really it was the best thing I could have ever done, because I think I was relying too much on what can I sort of learn from observing people, in my office, in my direct, sphere of control. And the reality was I wasn't seeing examples of what I wanted to be. And so one thing I highly encourage is, don't always get sort of stuck in that mindset. You can go out, and there are so many opportunities, so many programs that you can invest in. And if you can take yourself out to dinner a couple nights a week, you can put that money aside for something to advance your career. And so, there are many ways you can invest in yourself. And so just find one that interests you. And don't always rely on your company or your job to present you with training and career opportunities. Participate in what is offered at work, but own your development for yourself. And you're lucky because here at Dude Solutions, they have, 2019 objectives to make sure that there's career planning and management and growth. And so you should absolutely take advantage of all of that. But just don't let that limit you, and don't always, sort of sit back and think that it needs to be sort of spoon-fed to you. Although I had peers I could confide in at work, once you start moving up the ranks, you become more aware that you can't show your weakness. Now it's about jockeying for position and exuding confidence. So how can I ask for help and admit I don't know what I'm doing when it feels more like I'm opening myself up for exploitation? Hiring a leadership coach changed everything. My coach offered me the following 3 questions that shaped the way I handled myself moving forward. Number 1, what is my brand of leadership? Number 2, what does success look like to me? And number 3, what is most important to me? And so the first one, what is my brand of leadership? And when she asked me that, I said, my what? Up until that point, I thought of the word manager as an all-encompassing term that had a sort of one-size-fits-all definition. You wore professional clothes. You focused your attention up. You tell people what to do. The problem was that none of that felt like me. I started noticing some key phrases I used to guide myself and my managers. I realized that this was a good start in creating my brand of leadership, which ultimately became my mission and guide. And so the first one, oops, I'm kidding. The first one, the 4 F's. Have fun, but if you fuck up, fix it fast. And so having fun at work is always a priority for me. I love to joke around, I love to laugh, and I believe at my core that if you don't have a good time while you're there, why would you want to continue to show up? I thought about the one thing that truly sucks at work, and that's that sinking feeling of making a mistake. So it became a sort of obvious cycle. Have fun and work hard. Mistakes are okay, but own up to them immediately and ask for help to get it fixed quickly so that we can all go back to having fun. And I believe in this so much that I had t-shirts made for my team. I don't know if you can see me, I'm so short, but there are 4 nice blocky F's across my chest. So I do truly mean this. I walk the walk. The second one, raise the bar. Personally, I like to win. I like to achieve my goals, and I like to improve year over year. And so a simple way to do this is to constantly raise the bar. What gets you kudos and acclaim this year should not be the same next year. Next year should be more difficult. And this has a dual meaning. Number one, that means everyone has to improve so that moving the goal higher is still achievable. And number two, as a team, we begin to develop our own high standards of achievement. And so one way that this was sort of exercised and demonstrated in my team, especially back in Channel Advisor, is there really was a sort of, you have to prove your worth. We sort of internally policed each other. If we had a member who wasn't carrying their own weight, it got to a point where their manager nor I had to do anything about it. Their team members were, because everyone started realizing that if we're not all improving together, then someone's going to have to make up for that person who's essentially the weakest link. And then finally, chase the why. As a manager, I never wanted to be someone who just sort of gave orders. I never wanted to tell people what to do. My goal as a leader is to make sure and you understand the why you are doing something so that you understand your role in the bigger picture. Once you understand this, you self-motivate because you want to do the job. You should get why you are doing what is important, and this should carry down to the team. We should be asking our customers why, our leadership, ourselves. We should never simply check a box or go through the motions. We should always chase the why to understand the reason. So the second one, what does success look like to me? And so once I thought on this question, I realized I was working towards a form of success based on someone else's definition. Everyone's definition is different, which is why it's so important to stop and really understand what will make you feel as though you are winning and achieving. I realized my definition of success was based on each individual member of my team's success. Were they growing and developing? Were they becoming subject matter experts? Were they collaborating and learning from other teams? Were they reaching their goals? Did they respect me and want to perform for the good of the team? Ultimately, my personal success would come if I was focused on and engaged with my team and made their success my priority. If I take care of them, clear a path, and get the hell out of the way, they will take care of me. Giving autonomy and space is a great equalizer. The room to grow or fail is the same, but how each team member uses it is telling. And I saw this demonstrated time and again. It was really interesting. The more room you give someone, it's kind of like a rope. They'll either hang themselves with it or they'll use it to get themselves out of a sticky situation. And then finally, what is most important to me? Being authentic. And I know that this has almost become like a catchphrase or like I'm so authentic, I'm an authentic leader, like I love everybody, but it really became true to me. And I think because I felt like I didn't fit in the mold of what a traditional leadership looks like. I'm not necessarily clean cut and all of that. In the process of putting my leadership puzzle pieces together, I learned that ultimately what is most important is being authentic. And this is me. I'm short, I'm fat, I'm loud, I'm funny, I'm full of passion, I care greatly and I love deeply, I have a temper and I get fired up, but because I give a shit. I practice radical candor, so I've received as much as I've dished out. I'm extremely direct and I don't mince words. I think fart jokes are funny. I feel weird in professional settings, and all of that is okay. What I have learned and what I want to share with you is that there are no rules, and most people don't know what they're doing. You find success by showing up and paying attention. You help someone achieve success by helping them to help themselves, and you do this by being unapologetically you. So then how do you keep that momentum going on your team? Hire people that challenge you. Accept your weaknesses. Know your strengths and look for people you can learn from. Building a team is about filling in gaps to ensure you have a holistic approach to solving any problem. The majority of my teams are and have been comprised of people much smarter than me. Being a leader doesn't make you smarter or better. It simply means you are good or should be at this particular job requirement. Never let your ego or fear that someone could take your place get in the way of hiring the best people. Your managers in particular should be comfortable challenging you. I'm not talking about insubordination, but engaging in a dialogue where they have the freedom and confidence to disagree with you and the ability to try and make you see a different point of view. Conversely, also knowing when sometimes, as one of my favorite bosses told me, you just have to eat the shit sandwich. And to speak to this a little bit more, I had an amazing management team. They were scrappy, and I think I was just a little bit terrified of all of them in their own way. But they're incredibly effective, and I know that they respected me, and I know they were loyal and had my back no matter what, because I had theirs. And one thing I respected so much is that when I would come to them and say, you know, we need this to happen. You know, there's this, you know, huge project coming down the line. It's going to impact our team and it's going to double our workload, but like we still have to handle it and be happy about it. And they would waste no time telling me what they really think and telling me what to expect from the team. And that was very helpful because it helped me find a middle ground to essentially see how far can I push, because that's, you know, one of your roles in leadership. You have to push people hard. How far can I push but still be realistic? And because they felt very comfortable telling me if I was full of it, or, you know, explaining why it might sound good in theory, but it wasn't going to work, it helped me be far more effective. And I could also deliver on promises that I would make to my boss and also push back on him if I knew I couldn't deliver. And then for my final slide here, we've created office roles as a standard, assuming everyone knows the rules. And we need to start treating it as a learning environment where we expect success and coach failure. It's okay to look stupid. It's expected you will fail from time to time. Opportunities don't come on a shiny platter. They are often disguised as the crap nobody else wants to handle. The company's success is our collective goal and outcome. If we have a culture where each individual contributor trusts and believes this, then winning is the only outcome. Take initiative for your own development. Ask for help and share experiences. At the end of the day, your career path will fit into the scope and confines of what is expected, but don't forget you can push against the ropes to propel yourself forward and create some sweet new moves. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. I'd like to open up the floor to anyone if they have questions. I'll take them live and then also on Zoom if anyone wants to start typing their questions. We'll take those too.
So how do you communicate objectives to your team and keep them on track with that?
Kind of a what doesn't get measured doesn't get done type of a person. There's a couple ways. Number one, you have sort of like the standard goals and objectives that you're working towards throughout the course of a quarter, year, however your company measures that. And so that's something you can always keep track of with, you know, reporting and dashboards. But then there's always the special ask. I'll give a specific example, but change the names and details to protect the innocent. So if it is a situation where, which happened to me, okay, there's this big new company project that's about to happen, and it is going to impact your team, and it is going to at least double their workload. And so we still need you guys to deliver as you normally do, plus all this other stuff, and don't let things fall through the cracks. So I believe in transparency. When I have had situations like that in my director roles, I first go to my managers and say, and you know, that's the candid conversation. That's the shit sandwich. Holy crap, this fell on our lap. failure is not an option. This is one where we got to do it. We got to roll up. We got to make it happen. Realistically, how can we make that happen? Let's talk about the stuff that is an absolute no. These are things where realistically we have to push back up and say, I get where you're coming from. It ain't happening. And then where's the middle ground? Where's the stuff where, okay, we're going to have to figure out maybe a new process, which we've done. We're going to have to maybe cut out a process. We're going to have to get other teams involved. You'd really have to figure out what are some creative ways we can make it happen. And then finally, can we do an incentive? You know, everyone doesn't mind doing a little extra if we can throw a little extra at it. That's not always an option, but never hurts to ask. And so once as a management team, we've sort of discussed this and really thought about it from the perspective of the folks who are actually getting screwed and doing the work, then I bring it to them and I say, here's what was asked of me. Here is what we got together and talked about based on what we already know are going to be issues. And so here's our solution. Here's sort of the package. Here's the ask. And then I let the team, what do you think about that? And for the most part, I've been very pleasantly surprised. Once people see this as now it's not like my thing I'm rolling out to them. It's a collectively as a team, we got a problem and we got to solve it. And I need you to tell me what you can do. And then I need to know what I need to push back on. And so that's how, I mean, that was a really long-winded answer. I get it. But essentially have transparency and make the team part of the solution.
So we have rolled out a bunch of initiatives and programs that give all employees a lot of flexibility. And I think managing up can be a challenge no matter what, but especially whenever you're not seeing your manager face to face every day. What are some tactics and strategies that you can use in order to constantly be managing up from an individual contributor level?
Number one, you should be doing some type of one-on-one meeting. If you don't do, I mean, is that a normal practice here? So your one-on-one meeting is not necessarily just for your manager to drive it and sort of check in with you. Show up with a list of things you've accomplished. If there's something, you know, for which to toot your own horn, document it and date it, because then when you have your quarterly reviews or all of that, you already have everything to go back on. You know, there's also, I'm assuming you have some kind of, you know, CRM logging, something like that. Like, don't be afraid to pull your own reporting and show. I mean, I guess I would look at the managing up as take responsibility for your accomplishments and your success, and don't assume that in the background, people are going to go through that and be like, oh my God, Patty is killing it. We should give her all this praise. Assume that it's never going to be looked at. And so as Patty, I'm going to show all the stuff I've done. Doesn't mean you're doing it in a bragging sort of way, but let's face it, we all have so much to do. You taking that initiative to sort of document these things, it's actually a big help to your manager, because at some point, especially, I don't know what size your teams are, but I mean, mine was a decent size, not huge. I had 30 people. That's a lot to keep track of. So if they start taking responsibility for their stuff and documenting it, I had no problem going back and then looking and saying, wow, there's some, like, you know, some of it was fluff, but some of it is like, this is some really good stuff that has led to, you know, some downstream impacts. Hooray. Maybe they are up for a promotion and a raise. I know that was a question, so I just went ahead. Yeah. Yep.
All right. Thank you, Annie. If anyone has questions later on, follow up after we leave here. I have put Annie's LinkedIn information on the flyer, so just be sure to reach out to her if you want to follow up. Thank you. We appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thank you. This was awesome. Thanks. And look up Charlie, the unicorn.